Good to have you back. A major legal and political development is unfolding in Abuja following a decision by the Federal High Court to remand activist, publisher, and former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore at the Kuje Correctional Center. The ruling has immediately triggered intense reactions across Nigeria's political landscape, with supporters and critics offering sharply different interpretations of what the development means for democracy, free speech, and the rule of law.
That my bail is revoked and an arrest or bench warrant is issued towards me. I got a new set of lawyers today, as I promised the court last time, and they are going to represent us. But the court was told by the prosecutors that they must insist on sending me to Kuje prison until Wednesday. But guess what? I'm prepared. I brought my prison bag with me today, and I told the judge, who said he can't recuse himself, that when they are ready, I'm outside. Nobody should be surprised. I have predicted before now that all these things are going to happen. But they are happening for a good reason. And the reason is that somebody must make the sacrifice that will liberate this country.
The court decision marks another dramatic chapter in a legal battle that has attracted national attention for months. Sowore, who has built a reputation as one of Nigeria's most outspoken government critics, now finds himself back in custody pending the continuation of proceedings in a case brought against him under the Cybercrime Act. The development has generated significant public interest, not only because of the charges involved, but also because of Sowore's long history as a political activist and advocate for government accountability. According to reports from the Federal High Court in Abuja, Justice Mohammed Umar ordered that Sowore be remanded in Kuje prison until Wednesday, when proceedings in the matter are expected to resume. The order followed earlier accounts by the courts, which included revoking the bail previously granted to the activist and issuing a warrant for his arrest after he failed to appear for a scheduled hearing. The court had expected Sowore to appear and open his defense, but his absence led to legal consequences that have now culminated in his detention. At the center of the case is a 2-count cybercrime charge reportedly filed by the Department of State Services, DSS. Prosecutors allege that Sowore committed an offense through a social media publication in which he referred to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a criminal. Authorities maintain that the publication violated provisions of Nigeria's cybercrime laws and therefore warrants prosecution. However, the case has quickly evolved into a broader national conversation about the limits of political speech, freedom of expression, and the responsibilities that come with public commentary in the digital age. What makes the case particularly notable is that Sowore had previously chosen to represent himself before the court. After members of his legal team withdrew from the matter, he opted to personally conduct his defense, a decision that drew considerable attention from legal observers and political commentators alike. Many view the move as consistent with his activist style, while others question whether self-representation in a complex criminal matter would place him at a disadvantage during proceedings. Another significant aspect of the case emerged when Sowore sought to have the trial judge removed from the matter. A motion was filed requesting the disqualification of Justice Umar on grounds of alleged bias. However, the court dismissed the application and ruled that the trial would continue under the same judge. The dismissal cleared the way for the proceedings to move forward and ultimately contributed to the events that have now resulted in Sowore's remand. The ruling has already generated strong reactions from across the political spectrum. Supporters of Sowore argue that the case raises serious questions about freedom of speech and the ability of citizens to criticize elected officials. They maintain that democracy requires robust public debate and that criticism of public office holders should not automatically become the basis for criminal prosecution. According to this viewpoint, political leaders must be willing to tolerate criticism, even when such criticism is harsh, controversial, or uncomfortable. Others, however, argue that freedom of expression is not absolute and that citizens must remain accountable for statements made on public platforms. Supporters of the prosecution extend that court exist precisely to determine whether particular statements cross legal boundaries established under the law. They insist that the matter should be allowed to proceed through the judicial process without political interference or public pressure. Beyond the immediate legal arguments, the case has ignited wider discussions about the role of social media in Nigerian politics. Over the past decades, digital platforms have transformed political communications, allowing citizens, activists, journalists, and politicians to engage directly with the public. Social media has become a powerful tool for political mobilization, public criticism, and civic engagement. At the same time, governments around the world continue to grapple with questions about how to regulate online speech without undermining democratic freedoms. For many observers, the Sowore case sits at the intersection of these competing concerns. On one hand is the principle of freedom of expression. On the other hand is the question of whether there should be legal consequences for certain forms of online communication. The outcome of the case could therefore carry implications that extend beyond the defendant himself. The case is also attracting attention because of Sowore's history in Nigerian public life. As the founder of Sahara Republic and a former presidential candidate, he has spent years challenging governments, exposing alleged corruption, and advocating political reforms. His supporters view him as a fearless voice against abuse of power, while critics often accuse him of pursuing confrontation and controversy. Regardless of where people stand politically, few would dispute that Sowore remains one of the country's most recognizable activists. As Wednesday's court section approaches, attention will once again focus on the Federal High Court in Abuja. Legal analysts, political observers, civil society groups, and ordinary Nigerians will be watching closely to see how the proceedings unfold. The decisions made in the coming days could influence not only the future of the case itself, but also broader conversations about political speech, judicial independence, and the balance between freedom and responsibility in a democratic society. For the time being, Sowore remains in custody at the Kuje Correctional Center as the legal process continues. Whether the case ultimately strengthens accusations for free expression or reinforces the enforcement of cybercrime laws remains to be seen. What is certain, however, is that this development has once again placed important constitutional and democratic questions at the center of national debate. What do you think about the court's decision? Does the court represent a legitimate application for cyber laws? Or does it raise concerns about freedom of expression in Nigeria? Join the discussion in the comment section. For further reports, do well to like, share, and subscribe for more breaking news. political analysis, and in-depth coverage of major developments across Nigeria, Africa, and do let us know where you are watching from. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.